Hey everybody, this is Eric Worre and welcome to NetworkMarketingPro.com. We are using some new technology via Skype to talk to MLM superstar, Mr. Dan McCormick. I'm in Minneapolis, he's in California. Where exactly in California are you, Dan?
Coto de Casa, California in South Orange County, Eric. Good to be with you.
Well, thank you for taking the time and exploring this new interview technology experiment. Why don't you tell everybody, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of start, as you know, on Network Marketing Pro, we interview people who have earned more than $1 million in a year in commissions. And you're one of those people, young guy, done well. You know, you just told me you had a huge month last month. Congratulations on that. Why don't you tell me, what's your best year that you've had in commissions?
It'll be this year.
Yeah?
It'll be up in a few million anyway.
Yeah? Over two, you think?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Well, congratulations. Well done.
It's been
That's exciting.
Pretty special time. I mean, you know, we've seen these cycles kind of work now, you know, for 27 years. When I started, I didn't know that a bad economy was a good thing. You know, my wife was a distributor with a company out of Canada, and lo and behold, I learned that 1982 at 19% interest rates was a good thing to get in front of, not a bad thing. And, you know, so we were at the right place at the right time, made millions of dollars, passed our first $1 million when I was 22 years of age.
That's just unbelievable.
We were very, very blessed. And then it was weird again, because here we were in Southern California and in the early 90s. And, you know, after the Gulf War, the economy was bad again. And, you know, when that happens, you just increase your recruiting pool so dramatically because of all these people.
If you have your mind set to that type of a frequency, because a lot of people in a bad economy that are in network marketing, they just kind of say, well, it's a bad economy. I guess I can't do very well right now. I'll wait until things get a little bit better because people are scared and I can't really have the success. What have you seen people on both sides of that mindset?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I mean, look, you're going to have some people that are always going to be in a mindset, right? And that's the old SW thing, and we just keep moving on. But I like it. I mean, I think it's neat that, you know, hey, I lost a couple $1 million in value on my house. So what? Equity is not what it's all about anymore. It's about cash flow. If you've got cash flow, cash is king right now.
So you lost a couple million in value on your house. I wonder if that slid by very many people.
Well, it's just reality. I mean, you can't wake up in the morning and say, hey, I lost another $100,000 today in the house. But, you know, it's just... you look at the positives, I guess.
Yeah. How old are you now? Do you mind me asking?
46, 4 daughters, married 27 years, 2 son-in-laws.
46 years old. And you started in this profession at what age?
19.
19. So tell me about your very first introduction to the network marketing profession. What were you thinking? What was going on?
Well, actually, I'll tell you a piece of the story that I've never told. How about that?
Oh, good. I like it.
Some unique fun. So I'm in high school, and my uncle invites me to go to a meeting. And I've got these Seattle Seahawks. I grew up in Seattle. And these Seattle Seahawk punter, Herman Weaver, and one of the other offensive line guys is there. And they're rubbing these 2 coins together. And then you turn the 2 coins over and you rub them together on the other side. Well, one side of the coin was treated with an oil additive for your car that made your car get better gas mileage. So here I am, and I'm in high school, don't know anything about what's going on. I'm just thinking, man, these guys are making all this money selling this oil additive, right? Well, obviously, I went off to Washington State University. I played on
like Slick 50 or something?
It was Slick 50, yeah, exactly. Wow. It was Slick 50, man. I was all pumped up and driving all over the state of Washington thinking I was going to take Slick 50 to the world. And it was rather interesting to say the least. But I went off to Washington State University. I finished college in 2 weeks' time. I mean, most people don't finish in 2 weeks, but for me, I call it finishing. Yep. Most people, you know, call it dropping out, but I look at the positive side of it. I had a PhD, I was poor, I was hungry, and I was driven. The following summer, I was building tennis courts for the second year, making a whopping $5 an hour, and lo and behold, I answered an ad in the newspaper. I'll never forget it. It was a bone-chilling moment. I was scared because the guy that called me back on the ad in the newspaper started asking me about my business background. Well, I didn't. I worked in tennis clubs. I built tennis courts. I was a tennis player. And so I answered this ad, and And he says, come meet me at the Holiday or the Greenwood Inn. Come meet me at the Greenwood Inn at 11 a.m. tomorrow. And I said, how am I going to recognize you? He says, I'm a really big guy and I got a really wide part. And I'm sitting there thinking about this. Big guy, wide part. I'll go down. I put on my nicest jeans, my best tennis shirt. And so I walk in and I see this big guy, and he has hair right here on both sides of his head. So what he meant was he didn't have hair like the two of us. He had this big
old... you're doing better than me, brother.
Oh, my goodness. It's just a crack up. And so he said, you need to come to a meeting. So I took my mom to my first meeting.
What company was this?
That was Herbalife.
Okay.
And met my wife there, married my upline. I always tell people I married up. In this case, it was 3 generations up. And so we found ourselves at the right place at the right time with the right people. And we were very blessed to make a lot of money. And really, most importantly, Eric, we learned the principles. And I think that's kind of the foundation of where it started. I mean, we learned from maybe the best ever in Mark Hughes, Jim Rohn, and Larry Thompson.
They're very good.
Think about how many millionaires were created from that culture. And, you know, one of the things that I did, Eric, is I tried to study their mentors. So I went back and I studied the guys that they learned from. I actually have the entire genealogy tree in one of my journals where you look back all the way back into the 60s on who were their mentors and who taught them. It's a fascinating journey, but I get into great lives, and I really, you know, it's probably one of the more significant endeavors in my life is to study.
Did you ever meet Bill Bailey and those guys?
Bill's on the list for sure.
Yeah.
Larry Huff, Bill Bailey, you know, you go way back.
Yeah, Bill's a kick, man.
Yeah, he is.
Bill did some stuff with TPN back when we were doing that, and surprising to know that Bill was one of Jim Rohn's big time mentors.
Absolutely.
You know,
and
you
so
really looked to him.
You take all those experiences and you know, doing what you do on your program here is you're trying to pull out of all these people. Well, all of us have something from them.
Sure.
And they had mentors too. If you want to go back all the way to William Penpatrick, if you want to look at who Penpatrick learned from, if you want to look at what did Penpatrick have on his ship? A library. He was a vociferous reader. And so one of the huge things that I'm always a big proponent of is, look, everyone should always have 2 books with them, one to read and one to write in.
Right.
So I don't know if this will show up on the screen.
Yeah, that shows up good.
So there's my book, Lessons from Great Lives.
Yep.
And then here's my journal. So you always have 2 books with you, one to read so you're learning and one to write so that you remember, because this is a paper memory.
So why does your journal have mega on it?
Oh, Mark Victor Hansen and one of his, I was just supporting.
Oh, you did one of his mega events?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark's a good friend.
Well, I think MBA stands for Massive Bank Account, and Mark's one of the greatest thinkers I've ever met. So
yeah, I mean, he'll expand your mind. I mean, he goes all over the place, but he'll expand your mind for sure.
Well, you're right. He does go all over the place, but he's a fun guy. He's a fun guy.
All right, well, let me back up. You know, this story sounds a little bit like you went straight to the top, made $1 million in 15 seconds, and you know it was. You never had any struggle. You never had any challenges. I know that that's not true.
No, you're right.
What was the process as you were working to become a network marketing professional? First of all, let me ask you this: how long do you think it took for you to become a network marketing professional?
I tell the story all the time, and I'll reference a paper that I hope everyone will go read because I think it's very, very valuable. It was in Fortune magazine a couple years ago, written by Jeffrey Colvin. Jeffrey with a G, and the article is called What It Takes to Be Great. And I always tell people that it took me 7 years to be comfortable. That doesn't mean I'll never reference to myself to be great. I mean, I've got a lot of learning to do, and I certainly know that there's a lot of people out there that can do it better than me. There's a lot of people in my downline today that do it better than me. But there's very few people that do it better than me in one thing, and that is consistency. I really believe that is a word that people lose track of. I mean, you don't go to the fitness center and work out once and get the body you want. You've got to really put in the time and the energy. And what Colvin talks about in that article, what great lives in my book, Lessons from Great Lives, you study these lives, Eric, and it's like they literally gave it all, everything they could give for their mission. Ralph Waldo Emerson to do what he did. Abe Lincoln to do what he did, Joan of Arc for what she did. They all gave it all. And I think that I've given a lot of myself to understand that for things to change, I've got to change. We've all heard that. For things to get better, I've got to get better. But it's real.
Yeah.
It's not words. It's not
just it's just not just a quote.
It's real.
Why is it you think that people inside of network marketing have such a lottery mentality? They're going to try it for 2 weeks. They're going to talk to 5 people. They're going to think about maybe doing something. If anybody gives them 1 ounce of resistance, then they just say, "Well, I guess this isn't for me. I'm out of here." Why is it that our business seems to attract that mindset?
Well, isn't that the greed mentality of American Greed on CNBC?
Yeah, that's true, but they don't have that mindset when they start a dry cleaning business.
Yeah, you're right.
They don't have that mindset when they start a lawn mowing business. I mean,
I think it's expectations. I mean, you come to your first interview was with Nathan Ricks, the first show you ever did, right?
Yeah.
And what happened to Nathan in his 12th month? He made $100,000. He's never looked back for 20 some odd years, 100,000 plus a month or more, and who knows how many hundreds of thousands he'll make this month. But I think that's the thing. You see a story like that, and you think, hey, if it can happen for him, it can happen for me.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't happen in 30, 60, 90 seconds, then they fold up their tent.
Yeah.
It's the law of expectation.
Okay. All right. So back me up and just say, okay, when you're first, because there's different stages in a career, right? There's stage 1 where you're trying to have a downline.
Yeah.
You're trying to have someone in your group that'll stay for longer than 15 minutes. That'll actually, and then stage 2 is if that duplicates.
Yeah.
Getting to duplication. It took me 3 years. I mean, you got there much faster than I did. But it took me 3 years to finally learn how to get duplication happening in the organization. Up until then, it was all on me. I was just recruiting, and I had this huge first level, and virtually nothing second or third level. If there was anybody on those levels, I brought them in for those other people.
Right.
Talk about the evolution of kind of the lessons that you learned early on, because I think a lot of people, I have the $1 million a year earners on for a number of reasons. One is I want everybody to hear the common themes that all of them have in common, but I also want them to hear the early steps so they can identify with, oh, here's what he did, I can do this. Here's what they did, I can do this. So what were some of the early lessons that you learned in this business or in this profession?
Well, I'll share some of the very first things that I ever learned from Mark Hughes. I mean, number 1, he taught me how to tie my tie. I mean, I'm a 19-year-old kid. I didn't even own a tie. And so here's Mark Hughes at 24 years of age at the time, the founder of Herbalife, and he knew how to have fun. And I think that's a really important word. And he said, look, you got to care more about your customer than you do about the money you put in your pocket. You got to care more about your distributor than you do about the money you put in your pocket. But it took me several years to really get that. I think when I first started, I had a fear of taking money from people because I didn't realize that I was a giver. You see, I think that's when someone's new to network marketing, are you a giver or are you a taker? Are you giving life to the greatest opportunity? Right now, in my mind, greatest opportunity we'll ever see in the history of network marketing is right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Bar none. And so are you a giver or are you a taker? You see, someone's busy, someone's got a busy business, and you think, they got soccer schedules and kids are busy. Well, they're not gonna do it. Money's tight. The jobs are not as good as they used to be, and so I don't know if I could get them in a $1,000 investment to start my business. And so they're worried about taking.
Right.
But if you find the one and you give all of yourself to what they need, if you ask enough questions, the 5th habit of Stephen Covey, and by the way, I ask a lot of my audiences this question, and I ask it for a reason. My wife had Stephen Covey as a professor in college. That's kind of a unique experience.
Yeah.
Okay? I had these audio tapes of a program he had, it'd be 25 years ago now, and that program was called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It was a workshop before it was a book. And the 5th habit is seek first to understand, then to be understood. And so if we as recruiters can understand that concept, we're going to get ourselves and our own ego out of the way. If we're going to invest enough in what does Eric want out of this interview? How can I help communicate to the network marketer aspiring for, you know, his future growth or just making the bills this month, so to speak? So I ask audiences, how many have the 7 habits of highly effective people? I imagine you'd raise your hand.
Yeah, everybody, right.
And then my follow-up question is, how many of you can name all 7 of the habits right now?
Yeah.
And I never, ever get a hand. And then I ask the question, you see, that's why you really got to understand that it's not words for things that change you got to change. It's real. If the 7 habits are truly going to improve the relationship between you and your family and others that you're possibly recruiting, if they're really real, Eric, why wouldn't you know them? You see, because if your life's that important, why wouldn't you dive in and know them? I actually told Stephen this at his house a few years ago when I had a chance to be with him.
Right.
I said, I go into your stores, the Franklin Covey stores. The first thing I do is I ask the employee behind the desk when they say, can I help you? I said, yeah, you can help me. Name all 7 habits right now.
Never.
And if they do, I promise I will buy something from your store. If they don't, I will not.
Right.
And so I'm 1 out of 2 on that.
Really?
Equation.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Well, that's pretty good, man.
The guy nailed it in Chicago, and somebody blew it in San Diego. And so, you know, it's a fun thing to take it real. So back to your question. How do you do it? You've got to really understand first and foremost that people buy from who they trust. So how does someone trust you? Well, you're interested in them, first of all.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to pay attention to what their needs are. You know, if I'm running a phone room or if running a used car lot, I'm really about selling something this very minute and getting on with my day. But if you're going to network market, if you're going to recruit, recruiting is a process. It's not an event. My #1 new distributor, who now does probably $1 million a year in his 2nd year with me.
Okay.
Took me 5 years to get him to my house. And that was all because of trust. Eventually, when his clock came around to noon, Nathan, I think, said that on your show.
Yeah.
Your clock comes around to noon. Because, you see, you can't say the right thing to the wrong person. If it's the wrong time in their life, it wouldn't matter if there's a pot of gold right here at the doorstep.
Yeah.
So I think that trust factor and understanding the fun factor, the friendship factor, all of these little things that are just golden rules.
Well, let's talk about back up, because you mentioned fun a couple times. Talk about trust. You talk about being a real person, giving value. For things to change, you got to change. For things to get better, you got to get better. All that stuff's real. Personal development, personal growth, a book to read and a book to write in. All of those things, right?
Yeah.
But you mentioned a couple times now fun. What do you mean by fun, and how do you incorporate that into the growth of your business?
Okay, so we're talking about culture. You know, you know more about more companies than I will ever know, okay? But what I notice whenever I'm in a hotel and I see another company having a meeting there, I sneak in there and just take a peek. The culture is different from one company to another.
Yeah.
It might be the age, it might be the demographic, it might be the look, it might be more health-oriented people, it might be more of an older baby boom crowd, shall we say, right? They all have their own unique features to the culture.
Sure.
Well, if your culture is one of, let's take it for granted that you're going to have integrity. If you have integrity, you have a product you believe in, you have leadership and management you believe in, they understand what their responsibility is, and that's huge, as you and I both know. That is just massive. If you can have fun and not take your life so serious, like literally have fun with people. I try to, people ask me, what do how am I doing today? And I say, I'm having the greatest day of my life. You know,
that's when we talked yesterday. That's what you said.
Yeah, that's a muscle.
Yeah.
You see, I practice that muscle every day. I make every day the greatest day of my life. And so when people come to my house, you're looking in a room here. You can't see the room, but this is a living room kind of area that I can hold 50, 60 people in. And I'll have a meeting here once a month or so with some of my leaders in Orange County and my friends, and I try to have fun at the party. You know, we have food and beverages, and you know, in our case, we're demonstrating our product. We're laughing. We're having fun. It's not the grind. You know, the business has to be on your time frame, your schedule, and have fun with people. Let them know that you're there to help them get where they want to go. My business partner and I, Lon Wardrop, one day you'll interview him, you'll crack up. He's just an absolute nut job, okay? But I mean, we're walking through the Pittsburgh airport the day before the Super Bowl last year, and Pittsburgh's in the Super Bowl, and everybody's flying out to go to the game.
Yep.
Well, he lived in Arizona. And so he's walking down, talking to everybody he can, asking them, why aren't they rooting for Arizona? We're going through the security line, and we almost get in a fight because he's like, hey, I think Arizona's going to win this weekend. I mean, so we're trying to laugh and have fun with people. And I get on an airplane. The lady says, how are you doing today? And I say, I'm having the greatest day of my life. And the lady, too, behind me getting on the plane, she says, I'll have what he's having.
I like it.
So we're just trying to bring people to a little higher level of
you find that just that positive energy attracts other people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And or, Eric, it can raise them from where they're at. Let them know that, you know what, maybe I'm taking life a little too serious. You know, it can be a little more fun than that, right?
Sure. All right. Well, let me ask you this. How many people in your company make as much as you do?
Oh, boy. There's, I don't know, dozen, 2 dozen.
A dozen or 2 dozen. So, and you work with $1 billion company.
Yeah.
Okay. So you are extremely rare. You're extremely uncommon. And you also hang out with the other dozen, 2 dozen that make what you make, right?
Well, a lot of those guys are retired. I don't see them anymore.
Well, some, the ones that aren't. The ones that aren't. But here's what I know. The question that I want to ask you, and then I want to have you expand upon, is what makes you special? What makes you top 20 in your company? What makes you and them different from a person struggling to make $1,000 a month, a person that hit the wall at $5,000 a month, or the person who all they can make is $100,000 a year, or whatever? What characteristic or characteristics do you have and that you see as common with the rest of that group that make you special?
I'm going to answer that by giving you a book to read and a word to understand. And the book to read, it goes on sale today on Amazon. It's a great friend of mine who studied the origin of words. Bob Proctor is buying these by the case. He can't believe it. It's called Aspire by Kevin Hall.
Okay.
Hope people go get it. It is remarkable because he teaches you words. Okay, so we've heard this before that, if you know your why, the how's going to figure itself out.
Yep.
But I like to know why I have my why. Okay, so dig a little deeper, if you will. Analyze, really look inside introspectively about you. For whatever reason, growing up as a young man, in the environment that I was in with a single parent household, I would ask my mother for money all of the time. So my mom said something very brilliant. She didn't know she was doing this, but she would say, son, you better make a lot of money when you get older. Now think about what most parents would say when the teenager has the handout all the time. What are they going to say? It doesn't grow on trees. What do you think I am, made of money? All that kind of stuff. My mom said, son, you better make a lot of money. Well, I had a self-esteem problem as a child. It was enormous. Being raised by a single parent, it was my brother and I and my mom. We were living most of the time with my grandparents while she was working and trying to, take care of the family. I got a job at the age of 12, and I was with that job all the way until network marketing. And so there's a word that I want to share with you that I think everyone has to find inside their why, and that is diligence. Now, what is the origin of the word diligence? The Indo-European origin, D-I, die, to separate. Diligence, moving forward. If you're a diligent person on your task, if you want to look at George Washington, if you want to look at Leonardo da Vinci, they were all extremely passionate and diligent. And so if you're diligent in your trade, you are in network marketing a tremendous student, as we talked on the phone the other day. You love that part of the journey. But I know when you get in front of that crowd that the real Eric comes out and sharing your passion for what you can raise that crowd to achieve. That's what Mark Hughes had. Can I tell you a quick Mark Hughes story that'll never leave me?
Absolutely.
We were standing in his backyard. He often had parties. This is where we learned to have fun. He had parties. He bought Kenny Rogers' house years ago. And it was in Bel Air. It was a spectacular setting. And there was me and him and about a 6'3" young man that was about, let's see, I was probably 20 at the time. This other guy was probably 22, 23. Mark was maybe 25 or 6, maybe 27, living in Bel Air. And this young man from Australia named Andrew, we were standing and looking up at this palatial estate. And he looked at Mark and he said, will we ever live like this? And the brilliance of Mark Hughes, without hesitation, said, you bet your life you will. The ability to raise Andrew's expectations, the ability to make people believe in them that they can do it. Because corporate America doesn't do that for them. School doesn't do that for them. You and I do that. That's what we do for a living. We look into the audience, and in your eyes and mine, it's nothing but green lights. But other people have yellow and red lights. Mm-hmm. And I see green. I see possibilities. I mean, you've seen it. I've seen it. People that couldn't speak the English language that are millionaires in this country today because of network marketing. Yep. It's awesome to be able to raise yourself to that level. One more story, if I could.
Yeah.
Og Mandino in 1968 sat down at his typewriter. And he typed all night with a Danish and a cup of coffee, and those scrolls were born.
Isn't that unbelievable?
Unbelievable. He handed them to his wife the next morning, and she made one correction is all. Only one out of the first scroll. The second scroll, I will greet this day with love in my heart. Muscle can split a shield and even destroy life, but only the unseen power of love can open the hearts of men. And until I master this art, I will remain no more than a peddler in the marketplace. Now, I just gave you the first paragraph of scroll number 2. And so what Og Mandino did was he penned some brilliance that gives you and I a chance to learn from what he learned from. Who did he learn from? George Washington had his 13 attributes or qualities that he studied every day for 60 some odd years of his life. Mm-hmm. Og Mandino gave us another way to look at it. Yeah. Now think about the things we're talking about here, Eric. We're talking about some deep stuff. We're taking people to school right now. Mm-hmm. We're looking them in the eye and saying, look, for things to change, you've got to change. And it's not just words, folks. Mm-hmm. It's as real as you and I are sitting here on Skype technology that didn't even exist 5 years ago. Yeah. And the world can see this in a matter of minutes when you upload it. I'm just simply trying to communicate, look, it's possible.
Yeah. Let me. I'll tell you one quick story about Og. We had Og at TPN, and the last speech he gave before he passed away, the very last one, before we lost him, he gave this talk, and everybody went crazy, as you can imagine. And then afterwards, he said, you know what, I'll stay and I'll sign autographs and take pictures and sign books for as long as there are people. And he sat, at his age, for 7 hours behind a table. And one by one looked him in the eye and told him that they had greatness inside of them, that they could do it, and they would be... I mean, for 7 hours. I don't know very many people that would take pictures for more than a half an hour with a big group of people, let alone sit there for 7 hours and do that. So it kind of showed his heart and showed what we're talking about. And I do hear what you're saying, and I hope the audience hears what you're saying, which is this. What we do, the difference between the superstars, quote unquote, the high income earners and the low income earners, is the high income earners help other people see a bigger vision for themselves than they could see without that leader. They lift up, like Art Williams, pushing up people.
Great book.
They lift up an organization and they let them know that even while no one else might believe in them, that you do, and that this group of people are there to support them and help them. Do you really think that's the major difference between the common denominator with the top earners that you know and spend time with?
It's interesting. I'm with an international company, and so when we do our top group meetings, we're with people from 50 different countries in the world, and it's interesting to see that from Russia to China, they want the same thing. Mm-hmm. They want to make a contribution, Eric. They really do. It's very warming to know that there's humanity alive and well. Humanity is out there. We got to look for it. Okay, we're not going to find it on the news tonight.
Yeah.
There's goodness in a lot of people's hearts. And I just want to tell you, as honestly as I can, I get on my knees every morning and I pray for that opportunity. Every single day. I pray for the opportunity that I can meet somebody else. Oh, a great story. Larry King had a, Joel Osteen, I'm sure you know Joel.
Sure.
One of my favorite quotes, I don't watch Larry King that often. He just happens to be the neighbor of my business partner. And so Joel says, Larry, he says, I think too many people are looking for a miracle in their life. When in fact, they should be looking to be the miracle in someone else's life.
Great quote.
Oh, it just makes me feel so grateful that I found my dream. I found my passion. I get to do what I love to do every day. And one quick story, maybe this will help the true network marketer understand what I mean here.
Okay.
I'm doing a meeting in Sacramento not long ago, and I get this young guy come up to me, and you get these people, they violate your airspace.
Yeah.
I mean, he is right in my grill, and he's literally with a raised voice telling me all the things he's doing every day to try to recruit and to sell our product.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sell, I'm trying to recruit, I'm doing everything you guys tell me to do every day, all day long. Finally, he ran out of air, and I just took a step back, and I said, that's interesting. I said, I don't spend my day doing that.
Right.
And you saw him completely relax, and he says, what do you mean? And I said, I'm out there trying to make a friend.
Yep.
You're out there trying to sell.
Yep.
Big difference.
If people could hear that concept, we build a network through relationships. We don't build it through a pitch.
Exactly.
We build it through friendships. We build it through long-term connection with other human beings. We lift other people up. We push them up. We help them aspire, like that book that you recommended, aspire to higher expectations for themselves. I heard a great quote once that said, one of our chief wants in this life is for someone to show up and make us do what we can. Which I think is so good, because isn't that true? Having that teacher show up and won't let you skate by, or that coach show up and say, no, sorry, give me 10 more push-ups, one more time around, someone to push you to help you do something special. I think that's so true.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, please.
Okay, here's my journal, just to show you I do this every day. Yesterday, I'm reading Investors Business Daily. It's my favorite newspaper. It's the best newspaper in the world because they feature new America type companies. And so I see a quote that I got to write down, and I do this. I'll be driving down the road. I'll hear something. I'll just pull over. I write it in my journal, because that's what a paper memory does. Otherwise, you'll forget, right? I woke up probably 3 times last night between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. to write ideas down. If I would have waited till this morning, it would have never happened, right? So here's one for you that I really want, and you and I both love them to death, and that's Nightingale.
Yeah.
I never gave or took an excuse. I attribute my success to this. The meaning behind that is take responsibility, people.
Yeah.
Take it. It's yours. For things to change, you've got to change. Eric can't do it for you. He's brilliant on Network Marketing Pro, doing these interviews, bringing you the best of the best. I'm honored to make the list. I'm honored and humbled, okay? And by the way, you'll learn about the origin of the word humble in the book Aspire as well. It's cool. Just a remarkable story.
I'll get it for sure.
So anyway, I really think that's a word. I teach a radio show every Saturday. It's called Millionaire Training Circle. It's generic principles, right? For my
group. Is it a generic show? We'll link it up and we'll show it.
No, it's actually for my group, but it's generic principles.
I understand. Go ahead.
It's a curriculum, but anyone can find it on Blog Talk Radio if they want to look for it. But we talk about that. That is an entire class, is understanding, in my mind, I'll teach this if I could in closing, 3 things that every distributor needs. Number 1, you need a friend. Now, if you really think about it, and if you want to really look at the greatest business ventures ever, Warren Buffett has a tremendous business partner, okay? Most people don't even know his name. Look it up. Unbelievable respect that Warren has for this partner. Steve Jobs had Steve Wozniak. Bill Gates had Paul Allen. You can go down the list, so many different analogies. In network marketing, you have to find your friend. Now, fortunately for me, it was my wife. Okay, that's why I married my upline. But then you need to find a friend in your downline that you can share the ups and the downs with.
Sure.
Now, generally speaking, Eric, you and I, had we grown up together, we would have shared athletic events together. We would have shared birthday parties and memories and travel and trips.
Yep.
That's generally how friendships are made, out of things in common, right?
Yep.
So think about that. Who do you have? Who do you want to be a friend with? And my business partner likes to say, who do you know that's cruise worthy? You can go on a cruise with them and still have fun by the end.
Yeah,
right?
Not hate them when you're done.
Exactly. And then the second thing we teach on that very week is called responsibility. The ability to respond to the challenge you're given. I made an interesting YouTube clip the other night just about the $11 billion companies in network marketing, and the main product theme, the main category, if you will, being personal care. And it's interesting that you look at that and you say, if you're going to take responsibility for you, the ability to respond, okay, you're going to have to realize, as Covey said in the book, the ability to respond to your challenge, taking full responsibility, as Mark Hughes taught me. And that is this: the height of maturity is taking full responsibility for yourself.
That's a fact.
Love it. Now, the third piece that we teach on that Saturday, and this is what we do for an hour. We talk about these three things, and then we analogize it to your business cycle of where you're at. Because if you're new, you need a friend. If you've been around a while, you have friends that you can borrow from until you find a new leg, right? To build that next leg, if you will. We call them $1 million legs. So who's your next $1 million leg? So the third piece to that, Eric, is nourishment. If you think that tomorrow morning, Saturday morning, 8 a.m. in Los Angeles is going to be the meeting of all the minds, and you've got to be there, and you live in San Diego. You get up at 6 a.m. or at 5 a.m., you know it's a 2-hour and 30-minute drive to get to LAX. And you look on the needle of the gas tank, and it says 1/8 of a tank.
Yep.
And you say, I don't have time to get gas. I have got to keep going. You're not going to get there. No matter how positive you are, no matter how bad you want to be there, you must have the fuel. And that's the nourishment that we have to have. So Stephen Covey, what does he do every day for the last 35 years at 5:30 in the morning? He's up studying inspirational literature. What does Tiger Woods do every day at 5:30, no matter where he's at in the world? He's up working out. I have a very unique country club membership at a very, very exclusive club up in Idaho. And Wayne Gretzky's a member there. Wayne was standing next to me as my daughter was playing tennis with his son. And this is not a name-dropping thing. This is a principle.
Right.
Janet says to him, his wife, this is just a few months ago, this summer up in Idaho. We're on Lake Coeur d'Alene, just a stunningly beautiful setting. With your good friend, Richard Brook. We hang out together.
Good.
We golf together. Okay.
Who wins?
And Wayne, what's that?
Who wins?
Oh, Richard lets me win. Let's just say this. We have a good time.
Good.
But Wayne says, I'll be here at 5:30 in the morning when the fitness guy says, I'm up at 5:30 anyway. And I started to put these pieces together, Eric, and what do you notice? You know, network marketing gives you the lifestyle of your dreams. You can do it the way you want to do it. But let's be honest. If you're going to be extraordinary, you're going to get up before your competition. You're going to start reading before the sun's up. You're going to start studying, stretching, pondering, meditating, whatever it is you want. You must have mind over mattress so bad that you wake up to an opportunity clock, not an alarm clock.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is so real. Those are the little things, Eric, that you can look. I had a lady recently say to me, she says, and she's very sharp, and she had just signed up, and she says, can you look at people and tell? And I say, you know, there are definitely road signs, right? There are activities of things that people are willing to do.
Now, the activities, but on the outside, you don't know what's on the inside of somebody's desire. If they hit high noon and you know what, they're ready to change their life, they can do it. People have shocked me so many times. I would have thought never in my wildest dreams would they go to the top, and they do. And then there's the ones that you think are going to go to the top and don't. You know, you get surprised all the time. All right, I'm going to ask you one more question.
Those are the ones, Eric, that say you're going to make a lot of money on me.
Yeah, I know. It's like, oh,
boy, why did you have to say that? It's over.
Yeah.
Because they're thinking about them, right?
Yeah, what I always say is impress me by sponsoring someone.
Yeah, exactly.
But let me ask you this. I'm a huge fan of defining moments, these big moments when your life changes, and and Nathan talked about his when he went to his friend and showed him the stuff, and his friend just basically shut him down pretty hard.
Yeah.
And he got mad, and he said, you know what? He's not going to tell me what my future is going to be like. As I just described the defining moment idea to you, is there a main one that popped into your mind?
Well, there's 3 books that are defining books that
Sure.
the great quote that no book can change your life, only you can.
Yeah.
But these 3 books were, the first one was Og Mandino, The Greatest Secret in the World. The second one was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Greatest Secret or Greatest Salesman?
Well, they're the same book. The Secret is the journalized version.
Okay.
Okay. And the third one is my mentor, who is Sterling W. Sill, who originally wrote Lessons from Great Lives. He read 987 of the greatest books ever written. But I have his journals. He left his journals. His family doesn't want them. And he was the #1 recruiter at New York Life between 1928 and 1968. He broke all the records, and he started every Monday morning with a positive thinking bulletin that went to his team, and he mailed them out. And so I know there's 3 books that made a difference in my life. And, Bob Proctor, it's Think and Grow Rich. For some people, it's Earl Nightingale. But it's whatever it is, grab onto it and make it real for you.
Right. All right. Well, Dan, look, I appreciate you taking the time, experimenting with new technology in order to be able to provide some information to people. It's going to be going up over the course of a week's time, and people are going to be able to kind of dive in. I hope that they can really kind of digest, because some of the huge, very deep concepts actually went by pretty fast in this conversation. They can digest by looking over and over to be able to kind of check that out. But ladies and gentlemen, my wish for you, our wish for you, is that you decide to become a network marketing professional, that you decide to go pro. It is a stone cold fact that we have a better way. Now let's go tell the world. Dan, from California and from Minneapolis, Minnesota, everybody have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, great.
Too cool, man.